Welcome to PCI's Tech TV Developers Edition. In this video, we're going to provide you with a step-by-step guide on how to use Python in order to print report information from a Geomatica function to a text file. Many of Geomatica's functions will not only create the specified output product, but also will create information about the results, accuracy, or quality of the output product in a report form. By default, this information is printed to the terminal. However, we have a class in the Python API that will allow us to port this information to a text file. In order to communicate this concept, we are going to run Geomatica's MLR function on a classified image. So we have our data set here, and we've already have a classification result inside this data set. And the MLR function is going to create a report that in this particular case, or the way that we're going to run it, is going to report on the amount of coverage or area that is covered by each class. The output report will look something like this, where you basically have the name of the class, the amount of pixels that that class covers, and the amount of square kilometers, as well as the percentage of the image that that class covers. It is, however, important to note that many of Geomatica's functions have reporting capabilities which will by default go to the terminal. So the purpose of this tutorial is to show you how to port that information to a text file so that you can do something useful with it later on in your script. Alright, so now let's begin. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my favorite IDL. In this case I'm using PyCharm. If you don't have an IDL, then you can simply use Notepad or Notepad++. I'm going to create a new file. So in my case, I'm going to create a Python file, and I'm just going to call it create report. It'll automatically be appended with the .py extension. Next, we're going to open up our data package. So I'm just going to go here. If we look in our data packs, you can see that I've unzipped, so this can be downloaded from the tutorials page. And we've unzipped this, and we have here our .pix file that we're going to be working from, and a completed script if you want to start from here. We're, however, going to start from scratch. So once again, going back to my PyCharm environment, or our text file that we're going to create, we can start creating the first few entries. So the first few lines, we're just going to import a few necessary libraries in order to do this workflow or create the script. So the first library we're going to import is import the Python generic library of OS, which is operating system functions. Then we're going to import some PCI libraries. So we're going to open up the MLR library, so from PCI directory, MLR file, import the MLR function. And then we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to go and open up our report class, or import our report class, which is in the NSPIO file. We're going to import two classes, or a class and a function, so report, and then enable default report, as you can see here. So now we've basically imported everything, all the modules we're going to need and use for this particular workflow. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our input and output files for this workflow. So we can just go, we can just call this IO setup. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a working directory. So this is where this is the main root folder where all of our input and output files will be read in from or written out to. So we can call it working dir, and we're just going to make it equal to where we have our input file, so where you've extracted your data package. So I'm just going to take this path, I'm going to put an R there so that it's the text inside these quotes are read exactly, so that way it handles the backslashes. And that's going to be our working directory, and then our input file. So we can call this in file, and we're going to make this equal to working dir plus os.sep, and we're going to call it irvine.pix. So you can then just put the single quotes there, irvine.pix. And then our output file, this is where the output report file is going to be ported to. So we can just call it report if we want. And once again, we'll go working dir, so the same directory, plus os.sep. and we can just call this our classification rep.txt. So we're now going to run the necessary lines or create the necessary lines so that it will port the report information to a text file, and then of course run the MLR function, Geomatica function. So we'll just go here, we're going to create our try statement, and then we're going to go report, so we're going to call this one, and we're going to call the clear, so this is where it is going to clear anything in memory so that we get the correct report information that we want. We're going to call enable default report. We're going to point to our report variable. So now this is the one where actually the information, where it's porting your information to this text file here that's held in the report variable there. Then after this, we can then run the MLR function. So we're going to go MLR, and to help you set this up, you can go of course to our online help, and then you can choose the MLR function here. Gives you a description and shows you all the different parameters and shows you how to set up the parameters, etc. So basically you can go there for more information. So we're going to use keyword arguments. So we're going to call this in file, and then dbic. So this is pointing to channel 6, which holds our classification layer, and then the dbsl, which is a segment, our signature layers. And we're going to point this to all of our different signature layers, which is 17 through to 24. If we go to our PIX file, I can show you this. So you can see channel 6 has the classification result, and then the signatures are in segments 17 to 24. And basically all that does, is what this gives you, is that it'll properly name each class in the report. So we can just provide that. Of course, you can use a range function or xrange in order to do this as well, which actually would be a much better way to do it, but we're just trying to keep this simple for now. All right. So then after that, we're just going to close this off with a finally statement, and we're going to once again go to enable default report, and we're going to set this to term, and what that's going to do is it's going to close the report file, and now anything that's called after it will go, any report information will go to the terminal. Okay, now that we have this all set up, we can simply run it. So I'm just going to click run. Oh, and we have an error. If I look here, oh, I see. So dbsl, it's actually dbs1 is what that argument should be. And let's run it one more time. So we'll just bring this up so you can see. So create an empty classification result, and we'll bring that back. Just move this over so you can see it create it. And we'll run that one more time. There we go, that's how we run it without any issues. Then if we look at our result, we can see that once again we have our information about land cover. So that's a simple way for how you can use the report module or report class in order to port your report information from a Geomatica function, any Geomatica function that handles it, into a text file.